this video is going to be a little different than the others. I wanted to talk about my personal, I would say, suggestions for top five must-do mods. If you own an EVO, must-do mods. Doesn't matter if you're gonna build high horsepower, low horsepower. So this is based on my experience as both a tuner and owner. Well, I've owned like 7 EVOs in my lifetime. So these are the top 5 mods that I would suggest everybody would do no matter what you're gonna use your car for. And this is for EVO 8s, 9s, and 10s. And before I get to that, I wanna give you a quick update on what's going on. I haven't been able to tune any cars for the last few weeks because our dyno lift kind of got messed up and we got ramps instead. So it took a while for us to ship these ramps over. They do fit low profile cars, so we're good to go. Tuning will begin immediately. We are also moving to a, I guess, triple the size shop, and that should be something. Watch out for a video on that. And then I wanted to also, I know I've been teasing about what car my next project car is. So I actually have it. I brought it with me, so I'm going to show you what that is. That is the Corvette C6 2009 6-speed. This is a base model Corvette, and the reason why I picked this specific car was one that has 15,000 miles on it, and I wanted to see how fast these cars, EVOs, really are. By that I mean, yeah, we can race each other all day, 800 horsepower EVO 10 versus 800 horsepower EVO 8, but that's still not really a comparison. We know EVOs are very, very fast. So my plan for that car is slowly build a non-built horsepower, see what we get, maybe headers, exhaust, and then, you know, cams, and a supercharger, and then eventually build a motor in end of this year or beginning of next year when we go to the new shop, and get it to, I don't know, whatever horsepower, and then go balls out, see at what power a iron block LSX will blow. The reason why I'm doing this is because, one, I'm petty, and a lot of my clients has been talking shit to me. And what's the point of building another EVO to their specs and doing it? So let's see how fast these cars really are. You don't need to go somewhere else and get challenged. Your tuner is going to challenge you. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I really want to see how fast. The gearing on that thing is very different than these cars. So it'll be nice to compare. Okay, so back to what we're saying. 5 must-do mods. My Alchemist 5 must-do mods if you own an EVO. Number 1, no matter what EVO you have, number 1 are gauges. No matter what EVO you have, I always suggest gauges. In specific, boost gauge, AFR gauge, and oil pressure. Just like this. That is the trifecta, a must-have on EVOs. Number 1 reason is if you have a boost gauge, you can diagnose things very easily, right? Think about it. You have a leak, you know what your vacuum is supposed to be on at idle, you know what boost you're hitting, you'll know right away that if it's a leak or something's wrong. That's thing number 1. It makes it easier on your tuner too. Thing number 2, AFR. If you have AFR gauge, again, you know what is supposed to be on idle, you know something's wrong, you know what's supposed to be on wide open throttle. it's easier to diagnose. And the oil pressure gauge is strictly just safety. When the oil pressure is low, please don't drive. It's one of those things. This is a must have. Okay. Number 2, intercooler piping. Please get rid of these. Okay. Even if you have an EVO 8, 9, it doesn't matter. Please get rid of soft pipings on the charge pipe as much as you can, because they do expand, and you know, makes your to me it makes your car feel like shit. You will notice a difference, a noticeable difference in the throttle response and everything else when you do have hard pipes for either one of these cars. So that is number 2. Number 3, especially goes to the EVO 8s and 9s, are its fuel system. Please upgrade the injectors at bare minimum. The stock injectors are so small they can't even handle, in my opinion, the stock turbo. Okay? They can't even max out the stock turbo. And they have these resistor box that I would get rid of. So if you do get a injector upgrade, get anything high Z. Well, not anything, ID or FICs, but get high Z. What that does is eliminates the resistor box and makes the injector control more even. And I think the technology now is so advanced that high Z's are, in my opinion, better than low Z's. So that is specific to EVO 8s and 9s. The EVO 10s, however, your stock injectors are very good. They will max out the stock turbo. Stock fuel pump, same thing. They're good for like around 400 horses, but you cannot run E85. You shouldn't, at least. If you wanted to go to max power on E85, yeah, then change out the the stock injectors and whatnot. So that is number 3 in fuel system on the EVO 8s and 9s. Number 3, however, on this EVO 8s and 9s, a little different. The third thing I would request people to change is the stock boost system. So this have a pill and all that stuff. Get Grim Speed, and what any kind of 3-port boost controller has a better control over the turbo. I would highly suggest that as the third modification you should do to EVO 10, which leads to modification number 4. You did the fuel, you did your boost controller. You need to allow the ECU to control it, which is tune. So within the tune, there are a couple of things that you must do, which will bring us to number 5 as well. So for the tune, go with tephra V7 if you're using the stock ECU on EVO 8s and 9s. That is vastly superior than this stock. Okay? Same thing with this one. I know there's a tephra you don't need. There's a V1, V2, V3, but I think the V2 or the V3 has better definitions and maps in it. So it's $100 or $50. I would just spend the money and just get the upgrade. It has a lot of safety features that you need on this car. So number 4 with these is a tephra tune, okay, or a tune on a stock ECU. That is a must-have. Okay, so that's number 4. When it comes to tephras, however, there's different options you can go with. I highly recommend on this number 5 going to SD, speed density, width, and air temperature. So what that is basically it removes the stock map sensor and goes with a speed density, which is using the map only with an IAT to kind of calculate the air density and whatnot for fueling. It makes the car very stable. Even if you blow, there's other reasons to do it, but even if you blow a coupler, and for you getting stranded, you can still drive home. There's a lot of benefits to having it. Just makes the car really nice. You can go with a better intake and whatnot when you do that. Number 5 on this is exhaust. Notice I didn't recommend the exhaust or anything on that because, again, this is top 5. If I had to choose out of all the modifications that my client will come in with some modifications, that would be the ones that I'm done telling you. I'd rather rather have all those. I mean, obviously I would like you to have an exhaust, but if I had a choice, I'd rather have all those over an exhaust. On this car, cat removal will change your tune dramatically, or high flow cat. It is very restrictive, so I highly recommend that. But before that, my number 5 recommendations for both, and remember this is number 5, is intercoolers. This one is pretty good, the EVO 10s, but the EVO 8s and 9s no. I highly recommend, at the last thing, if you want to do anything, do the intercooler. Okay, even before the turbo. Top 5 modifications that I would ask anyone to do if they owned a vehicle like this. So to reiterate what I just said, number 1 on both cars is gauges. Those 3 gauges to be specific. Number 2 on both cars will be the rubber intercooler piping. Get rid of them, please. And number 3 on EVO 8s and 9s, definitely the fuel system, not the lines. Obviously, it's the injectors and the pump. And on the EVO 10s, number 3 would be boost controller. Number 4 would be a tune, using upgraded ROMs from Tephra or whatever, if you're using stock ECU for the safety and whatnot. And number 5 would be intercooler, and obviously to go along with it, to wrap it all up. If you bless your car with an exhaust, a nice flowing exhaust, that would be great. The EVO 8s and 9s do need a downpipe for sure, even with the stock turbo. The EVO 10s do not. The downpipe is pretty damn good. Unless you upgrade your turbo, I wouldn't spend the money on a downpipe. So that's it. That's my quick 5. I'm thinking about doing more of these videos, because I get asked the same questions over and over, and I keep answering the same answers over and over. Maybe I'll even do one for oils, but that's open a can of worms, I think. The questions you guys are asking me, it really just keeps me going. I think in the last video I said, hey, I'm not going to, don't ask me to compare tunes between, your tuner and whatever. So since then I've gotten more questions. Guys, I don't mind the questions, but I want you to understand what you're doing. You guys are literally working with someone where the trust level isn't there. If you have to ask me if this is good or not, get a second opinion, or ask the internet, there's no trust in that relationship, and there should be trust. It could be the best tuner in the world and you don't trust what he's saying. Maybe it's time to move on. Or ask, be direct, be like, hey, I don't feel, what can you explain? I do my best to try to explain what I'm doing. So if I'm wrong, they do a research online and they come across something, I should be able to defend myself and why I chose to do something that I did, and the customer's unsure of it because of an online or somebody else said something. I should be able to justify my actions. So most credible tuners will be able to explain without any hesitation, or without any struggle, why they're choosing to do something. They'll also be able to tell you, hey, you shouldn't be looking at online because that information is wrong. And I gotta say, the forums are great, but think about who's on these forums. Maybe 10% are people who know what they're doing, and out of those 10%, I would say 8 people or 80% won't even share what they know. So just keep that in mind. These are a lot of speculations on the forums, unless you hear from somebody who's proven to be truthful. So basically, I want to touch on that, because if you're gone to a point where you need to verify your tuner's actions, then it's time to find another tuner or even another mechanic or whatnot. It's all about, they could be doing something correct, but long as you don't feel correct about it, you're always going to second guess. You're always going to be like, oh, something's going to be wrong. You're not going to drive your car with confidence. I tell my clients when I tune them, look, you're running about 80% capacity of my capacity that I tuned your car. There's a little bit more in it. And these are the dangers. This is the time failure. So if you are making 900 horses and you're driving a car and, like, you know, balls out all the time, yeah, you're maybe going to last another 6 months, maybe another season, depending on a lot of different variables. Then it's time to upgrade or change things. And I point out weaknesses in the build completely. And typically transmission is what goes in these heavy ass cars. I'm talking about the EVO 10s. But anyway, I just want to touch on that because I feel like people who are not communicating with their tuners and they're just doing a research, it's not fair to the tuner. I'm not even talking about myself, I'm talking about everybody else. If a person's upfront, like, hey, this is my experience, this is what I do, take it or leave it. If someone's lying to you about it, that's something else. Then yeah, go blast them. But yeah, I wanted to just touch on that. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this video helps. Just remember those 5 things. So if you come to my shop or talk to me, I'm going to ask you for those 5 things. Obviously, I'll work with what you have, but some things are not negotiable. Like a boost controller is not negotiable. Those gauges are non-negotiable. You have to have them. But yeah, I hope this helped someone, at least one person. And keep watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I hope to see, you know, more, you know, things going on my channel. It allows me to do more things, better things. And don't forget, that's coming.